I trust your second week of January 2024 kicked off on a high. Good evening on this 15th day of January 2024, a day when the country's 15th Chief Justice, Lady Justice Martha Koome, lectured the country on matters the adherence to court orders, or rather the lack of observation of them in a press briefing that was held earlier on today. We also tonight are bringing you a conversation, a candid conversation with Sabina Wanjiru-Washege. She is my guest tonight. A lot to talk about, including the recent tectonic shifts of the mountain that is the Mount Kenya region. Remember, she led a host of 120 MCAs to meet with President William Ruto at State House, Nakuru. This and much more coming your way right here on TV47, The Daily Report. My name is George Marenga. Our language interpreter shortly will be Catherine Simaloy. We invite your feedback. What questions do you have for Sabina Chege, as well as your feedback regarding the show? Our SMS line 22047. Start with your name, where you're watching us from, and your question or views regarding the program. On X, I'm at George Maringa _. You can tweet at TV47 News or at Sabina Chege. Here now are the highlights. The highly anticipated response from the judiciary to the executive is out, and CJ Koome is taking no prisoners.
And the subsequent actual defiance of the orders granted by the courts are untenable and amount to contempt of courts.
Hopes, dreams, and despair galore as Form 1 admission gets underway countrywide.
By now, around 12 noon, we already have 290 that are on the queue to be admitted. Plus,
high-stakes game of tit-for-tat as Kenya and Tanzania tussle over control of the air. The latest, a ban on KQ flights to Dar a week from now. Find out why. And later tonight, you asked, we listened. Sabina Chege, live and direct. We thank you for choosing TV47 to inform you. Let's get this show on the road, shall we? And police have begun investigations into the gruesome murder of an unknown woman at an Airbnb along TM Drive off Thika Road, whose badly mutilated and dismembered body was discovered on Sunday morning. The identity of the victim is still a mystery, as the victim's head is missing. Investigators are holding 2 suspects to help with the ongoing investigation. Moiga William opens our broadcast tonight with that report.
The identity of a murdered woman believed to be in her 20s is still a mystery, as investigators at the Kasarani police station burned the midnight oil to unravel this enigma, a task made harder by the issue of a missing head. The body parts were discovered wrapped inside plastic bags and stuffed in a litter bin. Detectives have lifted the prints from the deceased fingers and forwarded them to the Directorate of Criminal Investigation Forensic Laboratory in a bid to establish her identity. Also under analysis is CCTV footage from the scene. Further, police are holding 2 suspects, including the owner of the apartment, to improve the murky details surrounding the identity of the main suspect, who is believed to be male. Investigators familiar with the case have observed that the deceased could have been murdered elsewhere, as the Airbnb room which the main suspect had leased was found to be squeaky clean, with no trace of signs of a struggle or even blood stains. Police officers are also scratching their heads over the real number of culprits, citing the level of mutilation and dismemberment observed on the body. Moige William, TV47.
Thank you, Moige, for that report, which leads into this developing news where you will now need to present your valid ID, that is identity card, upon entering any commercial accommodation and residential buildings, and that your identification details will be recorded accurately and even retained until you depart the premises. Furthermore, all security arrangements, including CCTV cameras, are ordered to be in correct working order. A security OB and an updated record record of all comings and goings. This, among other changes, according to the Ministry of Interior, is in response to the alarming increase in criminal activity, including murder within residential buildings, accommodation, lodging, and hospitality platforms. To matters, education and other stories, and of course just to inform you, my guest Sabina Chege is already in the premises. That conversation coming your way shortly. Now, doctors, clinicians, nurses together with other health workers at the Nakuru Level 5 hospital conducted a peaceful protest on Monday following the mysterious death of their colleague Dr. Laban Kipto Langat, whose body was found in trench on Saturday morning. Led by the South Rift Region KMPDU and Kuko officials, the group camped at the Nakuru Level 5 hospital administration offices, demanding answers over the young doctor's alleged murder, threatening to down their tools unless they get answers. Chichi Josephine tells us more.
Health workers at the Nakuru Level 5 hospital conducted a peaceful protest on Monday following the death of their colleague Dr. Laban Kipto Langat, whose body was found near hospital grounds on Saturday morning.
Solidarity forever. Laban was diligent, he was kind, and he was very hardworking.
According to the Nakuru West DCIO Charles Kamau, the body of the 26-year-old Kipto, who worked at the Nakuru Level 5 hospital's Margaret Kenyatta Mother Baby Maternity Wing, was discovered by security guards in a trench outside the facility at about 7 a.m. on Saturday.
We received information that there was a body of a middle-aged person in the lying on a trench in the compound of the Provincial General Hospital, and we rushed there, and we were able to establish that the deceased was an intern doctor who was working in the said hospital.
The DCIO noted that they have not established the cause of the death, while also noting that 10 of his colleagues and friends have recorded statements at the Kaptembo police station to aid in the investigations.
We have recorded statements of about 10 witnesses who were with him, and some of them who are not with him but were calling him, maybe communicating with him. And we are yet to establish what caused his death.
The health workers are now demanding justice for one of their own, failure to which they threaten to down their tools.
Baada ya masaa 24 kama hakutakuwa na watu ambao watakuwa wameshikwa kwa sababu ya hii jambo, hatutakuwa na any other option, bali tutasimamisha kazi yetu.
Especially hizo call za usiku tumeogopa kwa sababu inaweza kuwa mtu yote anakuja hapa alafu pia auliwe.
How many are we going to wait wakufe ndio to act? Hii ni hospitali kubwa sana, haifai kuongea story na security. Sasa hii security ingekuwa hata from the gate kuingia mpaka hapa ndio kuja kudambiwa, anyway it is a shame.
Chichi Josephine, TV47.
Thank you, Chichi, for that. Now, tonight, Chief Justice Martha Koome has come out guns blazing to defend the third arm of the government. In a press briefing held a few hours ago, Lady Justice Martha Koome, who is also chairperson of the Judicial Service Commission, JSC, and president of the Supreme Court, has warned against looming anarchy and chaos, let alone contempt of court, if the attacks on the judiciary persist. Take a look. For a soft-spoken Chief Justice who rarely grants interviews or issues press conferences, when she appears accompanied by other JSC commissioners, including the Attorney General, makes a half-hour-long press briefing and even takes questions, you know it is not business as usual.
This commission is not an appeal court. It cannot go into the merit of the decision to find out whether the judge was wrong or right in arriving at a certain decision.
Coming hot on the heels of a fresh wave of attacks by the executive and legislature regarding the number of petitions received so far.
Tell us whether there is corruption in the judiciary or not. Usifanye maandamano tu bure.
For starters, the CJ, who is also chairperson of JSC, was quick to respond head-on.
In the year 2023, I want to tell Kenyans that the Commission received 72 petitions or complaints against judges. 13 of those complaints were dismissed by the Commission because they were touching on the merits of decisions which should be redressed by way of an appeal. 6 judges were asked to respond to the petitions, out of which 4 petitions were admitted for hearing. And the hearing is going on. 49 of these petitions are undergoing preliminary evaluation by the Commission.
The Chief Justice cried foul over the disobedience of court orders.
It is also an assault to the rule of law and the very stability of the nation, and can lead to chaos and anarchy in our motherland. The declaration that they will no longer obey court orders and the subsequent actual defiance of the orders granted by the courts are untenable and amount to contempt of courts. And if this course is allowed to continue unabated, we are on the precipice of a constitutional crisis that can lead to untold civil strife. The judiciary and the Judicial Service Commission cannot countenance this and will not be part of it.
CJ Koome says for the first time, an arm of government has invited the EACC to assess the strength of its systems against corruption. Perhaps reminiscent of her predecessor, retired Chief Justice David Maraga's wars, CJ Martha Koome lamented how she is yet to secure a meeting with the president.
So we'll be looking out for that dialogue. We have written, and I believe His Excellency is going to give us an appointment, and we are ready to go anytime we are called.
Already, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has threatened to present a petition against Lady Justice Esther Maina, who handled his case in 2022. On the issue of independence of the judiciary, the CJ wants the judges left alone.
Even judges are human beings who deserve to be given an opportunity to be heard. And judges get hurt, especially when their names are dragged in public and they are condemned as corrupt, and there is no evidence that has been presented to them to respond.
The response by the CJ comes ahead of the Court of Appeal's ruling on the Social Health Insurance Fund on Friday this week, which has been among the thorny issues by the executive.
I said when judges are attacked publicly and they are hearing a matter, live matters, they feel intimidated. They feel harassed. They feel like they are being ordered to rule in a certain way. Actually, they get embarrassed. Because if you rule this way, they will say it's because you are told off. If you rule the other way, it's like, look, we told you. You see? So this is why we have a principle in law that is called sub judice. When the matter is pending in court, in as much as possible, let us not discuss it in public domain.
The latest war of words between the executive and the judiciary is not a new phenomenon. However, with the latest statement from the Judicial Service Commission, all eyes will be on how the country's first female Chief Justice and the 15th Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya will navigate the latest war between the executive and the judiciary. George Maringa for TV47 in Nairobi. Meru Governor Kawira Mwangaza's husband, Murega Baichwa, and his sister, Miriam Guntai, have recorded their statements with detectives in the probe into the murder of Meru blogger Daniel Muthiani, alias Sniper, as confirmed by DCI Eastern Region Coordinator Lenny Kisaka. Also today at the Kiambu Law Courts, it was decided that 6 suspects connected to the death of the Meru blogger will be charged with the murder on Wednesday when they are arraigned in High Court. Vincent Vincent Muriithi, also known as Supu, Kennedy Mutua, Frederick Muriuki, Franklin Kimathi, Timothy Kinoti, and Kenneth Murangeri appeared before Kiambu Law Court's Senior Principal Magistrate Merisia Opondo. Sniper disappeared on December 2nd, 2023, before his body was found dumped at River Mutonga in Tharaka Nithi County on December 16th.
Mr. Musyoka further submitted number 3. Vincent Muriithi alias Supu shall be detained by the applicant at Runda Police Station until 17th of January 2024 to enable the applicant to conclude investigations and or charge the respondents, were the applicant to decide were the applicant to so decide. 2, I further order that the respondents in miscellaneous criminal application number 3 of 2024, Republic through Directorate of Criminal Investigations versus Kenneth Mutua, Frederick Muriuki, Franklin Kimathi, Timothy Kinoti, and Murangeri Kenneth shall be detained by the applicant at Muthaiga Police Station up to 17th of January 2024 to enable the applicant conclude investigations and or charge the respondents, were the applicant to so decide. The applicant shall release the respondents from police custody should the applicant fail to comply with my order C that I've just read out. E, the claims of torture and other violations made by the respondents be addressed before the High Court. F, right of appeal 14 days.
Parents have urged the Ministry of Education to review the policy that prohibits schools from being involved in the distribution and sale of school uniforms. They argue that the current practice of obtaining uniforms from sources outside of school is cumbersome and results in the purchase of uniforms with varying colors and differences in sewing fabric quality. Additionally, they have expressed concern about the increased cost of living, calling on the government to intervene, as Andrin Kilemi now tells us.
Early Monday morning, diverse scenes unfolded in secondary schools nationwide as the 1.4 million KCP candidates from the previous year, representing the final group under the 844 system, began their enrollment in their respective secondary schools.
We are happy that out of the number we expect of 450, by now, around 12 noon, we already have 290 that are on the queue to be admitted. So we are expecting by the end of the day, we shall be able to make 450 students that will make the 8 classes.
Most secondary schools successfully enrolled a significant number of students on day 1 of admission. A spot check in Karoti Girls High School Moya and Chewoyet National School in West Pokot indicated a total of over 250 admitted students by midday out of the expected 450 students.
Tulikuwa tunangojea hii siku kwa hamu, maana tulikuwa tunatarajia kwamba Form 1 wataingia ili waendelee na masomo.
A section of parents has called upon the Ministry of Education to review the policy that prohibits schools from any involvement in school uniforms. The parents argue that the process of sourcing school uniforms outside the school is tedious and has led to some parents buying different shades of the same uniform colors.
Lakini ile kitu inapendeza sana ni kununua uniform hapa. Juu uniform ya hapa naona ikiwa smart, yote inafanana, wasichana walembo.
At the same time, Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Machogu has sent a stern warning to parents who are staging attacks in schools over poor performance in national examinations. In a statement released Monday, the education boss said going forward, the Ministry of Education will treat any invasion in schools as acts of crime that prompt firm and decisive action from law enforcers. This year's Form 1 placement saw a total of 42,927,000 students placed in national schools, 2,225 students in special needs education, 274,746 in extra county, 288,201 in county schools, and 792,230 students in sub-county schools. Andrin Kilemi, TV47.
Thank you indeed, Andreen. And of course, we expect to see how the back to school, or rather the reopening of Form 1 goes. The Tanzania Civil Aviation Authority has issued a revocation of KQ passenger flights between Nairobi and Dar es Salaam from the 22nd of this month. This comes after the alleged refusal by Kenya to refuse the request for all cargo flight operations by Air Tanzania, contrary to an agreement forged between the two countries in November 2016. The agreement, limited under fifth freedom traffic rights between Nairobi and third countries on air services, was meant to balance out aeronautical rights enjoyed by the two countries. The tiff now further fuels a potential cold relationship between the two neighboring countries after imports from Tanzania to Kenya, having the last year recorded the sharpest slump in 7 years. And of course, still on that story, a few minutes before going on air, Musalia Mudavadi, Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs, tweeted, or rather posted on X, have this evening spoken to His Excellency J. Makamba, Minister for Foreign and East African Affairs Cooperation of the United Republic of Tanzania, with regard to the decision of the Tanzania Civil Aviation Authority to rescind the approvals for Kenya Airways to operate passenger flights between Dar es Salaam and Nairobi with effect from 22nd January 2024. We have jointly agreed that our respective civil aviation authorities will work together to have the matter resolved amicably within the next 3 days. There should therefore be no cause for alarm. January Makamba, the Minister for Foreign Affairs in the United Republic of Tanzania, on X said, I spoke to my Kenyan colleague Musalia Mudavadi. We agree that restrictions of air travel between our countries and from any of our country to a third country shouldn't stand. With relevant authorities, we've resolved to settle these issues by existing agreements within 3 days. Let's make sense of the sense. In the foreign exchange market, the shilling depreciation against the US dollar has continued to persist as the Kenya shilling USD mean exchange rate has crossed to the 160 Kenya shillings mark for the first time in history. The shilling has lost 1.8% relative to the dollar since the year started, which is primarily attributed to the ongoing imbalances in demand and supply. The shilling has been depreciating by 0.4% weekly, which has continued to paralyze our country with debt since it has been increasing by 3 billion every day as the shilling continues to depreciate.
The main reason why the currency is depreciating is because of the overly demand for the dollar, and yet the supply is very little. So also there have been news or stories of overvaluation in the past, and according to Bloomberg, the shilling is now less overvalued. That is around 7% compared to like 20% in the last 1 or 2 years. So the less the currency is said or is overvalued, the lesser it becomes to sensitive to market news and depreciation against other currencies, especially the dollar. So up to around June of 2023, Kenya's debt had inflated by around 700 billion Kenya shillings. This was in tandem with about 13.3 thereabout depreciation of the Kenyan shilling. So this means that on average the Kenyan debt increases by around 38 billion for every unit of depreciation of the shilling. And because the shilling has been depreciating by an average of around 0.4% weekly, this means that the debt, Kenya's debt in dollars increases by around 3 billion every day. So the more the shilling depreciates, the more our debt that is in dollars increases.
About 32 tons of avocados being smuggled into Tanzania from Kenya have been confiscated at the Namanga border by the Horticulture and Crops Directorate and HCD. Acting Deputy Director in charge of Regulation and Compliance, Collins Otieno, says the consignment was intended for export to the Tanzanian market in efforts to thwart the current restrictions on exportation of immature avocados out of the country.
Horticulture is one of the leading export earners in the country, raking in about $1 billion in earnings in a year. Just last year, the country shipped out the highest volume of horticultural produce in more than 2 years, boosted by increased demand from the export market. Due to this, the Horticulture and Crops Directorate announced the closing of season for exportation in November last year to ensure quality of export is not compromised.
Every year between November to March, we close the avocado harvesting and export season for sea shipments. This is because of reduced volumes of avocado fruits, and therefore we limit exports only to air shipment.
This has, however, not deterred some exporters who have found illegal ways of still exporting by sea through Tanzanian markets.
And this is in contrary to the horticulture regulations, which stipulates on issues of how avocado should be handled and packaged and transported. So when we got this information, we sent our surveillance team, who working together with the border control team here in Namanga.
The HCD intercepted 4 lorries, moving about 32 tons through the Namanga border, where producers of the fruit were aiming for tax exemptions in the neighboring country, all the while evading the 30% tax imposed on Kenyan fruits in the international markets.
When it is harvested during this period of time, because it is something that is done illegally, you'll find that some fruits, there'll be mixed fruits, there'll be mixed sizes, you'll find that we have problems of immature avocados being harvested and being transported. And these have an impact on the overall, it has an impact on the quality and also on the price that the farmers obtain from the avocados.
The Directorate has warned of license revocation to those finding loopholes for the